Hello, and welcome to the first episode in a series of live streams to answer 3 questions. Number 1, what is a hybrid event? Number 2, how do you plan for hybrid events? And number 3, how do you create a great hybrid experience? But before we go into the details, let me introduce myself. My name's Luke Bowden and I'm the Director of BA Events. We are the end-to-end event business focused on working with the transport industry to bring people and ideas together. I remember the first event I ever ran. There was about 80 people and we all sat in this room with a low ceiling and there was these pillars that if you were an unlucky attendee blocked your view. We had a series of presenters that all stood in front of the screen with a projector shining against their head. They each spoke for 30 minutes and then we shuffled the 80 people into another room where they had a few cheap sandwiches and packets of crisps. That was quite a few years ago now, and I think we can all agree that if we went to an event like that today, we wouldn't be leaving particularly positive reviews. But why do I tell you this story? Well, to understand hybrid events and what they are, we need to take a step back in time. Take your mind back to pre-2020, the year where everything changed. If we were invited to an event, we would expect there to be a venue which you'd travel to and you'd sit in a room with other people. Over the last 12 months, during COVID, if we were invited to an event, we'd expect there to be an online location, there'd be no need to travel anywhere, and you could watch, perhaps engaging in a chat, a Q&A, or virtual breakout rooms. But let me ask you what you enjoy about live events. If it's like me, it's being able to meet new people and enjoy great hospitality. I know that's what I enjoy. And then what do you enjoy about virtual events? Perhaps it's not having to travel, being able to join at home with your slippers and being able to hop on and hop off throughout the day. Well, what if I was to tell you that there's a way of combining the benefits of both live and online events? Yeah, there is, and that's hybrid. So what is hybrid and what does it actually look like? Well, the best way to explain it is it's one event with one audience, but they're split over 2 different venues, a physical venue and also an online venue. But hybrid events are not new. There's been many organisers doing a great job at creating hybrid events for many years. But what's changed, of course, is there's been a growing demand by people as a result of the pandemic and also great new technology that's developed at an incredible pace that's brought hybrid events into many people's reach and ultimately their budget. So let's look at the pros and cons. First, looking at the pros of hybrid events. There are 3 core positives in my mind to hybrid events. The first is that you can reach a much wider audience and improves accessibility. The second is it helps the planet. And the third is that it helps well-being. Let's look at the first one. If you run a hybrid event, that can really allow you to increase your audience. One of the questions that I love asking attendees that have been coming to our virtual events over the last 12 months is, if this event was to be in person, would you have come today? And although there are certainly some attendees who would have loved to come on a trip from Scotland down to London for an event, there are equally some that wouldn't have attended if it wasn't for it being online. This could either because of the pressures of their job, other commitments around the event date, or perhaps not having the budget to travel. If you do an online event, this really opens up the amount of people that are able to access your event. It provides the ability for people that want the online experience to get it, and also for the people that want to join virtually to come to the virtual event. Another possibility of hybrid events is that you can promote the event during the event whilst it's actually happening and get people to come along to the online event. And we'll talk about that more in a later chapter. Number 2, it helps with the planet. We need to take drastic action to save our planet. There's no way to hide it. Transport is one of the biggest contributors to greenhouse gases. Cars and vans make up 1/5 of the UK emissions, so ensuring we reduce and pick sustainable transport modes when going to events is going to be key. We need to ensure that we plan events in the future that are sustainable, and sustainability is at the top of our agenda. We're not wasteful, and we try to optimise technology to make planet-friendly decisions. Number 3, any person will know that an event will really does help mental health. We have a mental health crisis underway at the moment, and people are really missing social interaction. And social interaction is something that we can get from events. Events create a great opportunity for people to get together, laugh together, and enjoy each other's company. But for all these positives, there are, of course, some negatives and things you need to consider when doing a hybrid event. The first one is that the resources and budget required may be higher. The second is that although this can be resolved through good planning, engagement is usually lower from your online attendees. And number three is that you don't build such rich relationships. The first one to talk about is resource and budget. You can you can achieve some pretty incredible things, as we all know, with little budget. But resource and budget is always going to be something to consider when running a hybrid event. And there are many things available and many technologies available if you have limited amount of cash. And we talk about that later. There are, though, some additional costs to consider with hybrid events, such as production teams and the platform that you use to deliver the event. We're going to be talking about this a little bit later, but there are some great advances and softwares that can help you create a great hybrid event. The second thing to consider is engagement. I'm prepared to admit it, AFK, away from keyboard. Sitting at home and that Amazon delivery comes, it's a pair of new trainers, you open them up, you run up and down the street a few times, you take a picture for your Instagram, and then you realise, I'm meant to be watching an event, oh no, I've got distracted. So that does happen. Away from keyboard is something you have to consider when you're running hybrid events. There are certainly things you can do to engage your audience and make sure they're participating in the same way as the people are in your actual room. Get people involved and hear their voices at home. And the final thing to point out, which I really want to draw attention to, is relationships. We've discovered some fantastic ways that work can be done over the last 12 months and you can build relationships online. I've certainly met some people and built relationships over the last 12 months online. But if your goal for an event is to build trust, confidence, and generate engagement from a team, an in-person event is the way to go. And you might lose that from the online part of a hybrid event. Well, hopefully you've been able to think a little bit more about what a hybrid event is and how it's going to work for your team. So join me next week at 12:30 as we look at how you plan for hybrid events.